All right. So the design cycle is this really colorful looking deal that we have on our welcome tab. It also should look familiar because it's up on the wall over there. And really, if I had it my way, I would have it painted on every desk in this room. Simply because everything we do, whether it was taking apart the computers, whether it's coding, whether it's robotics, whether it's the CAD software, it all surrounds something called the design cycle. The design cycle is really a really fancy way of coming up with ways to solve problems. Okay? First step, though, to solving a problem is what? Anyone have an idea? Okay, thinking of something smart is definitely a helpful thing, but not the first step. Not quite. Not figuring out what the solution. Before you can even solve a problem, what do you got to do? You have to figure out what the problem is. So, when it says this, oh, don't worry about that. Step 1, and if you look over there, it's called inquiring and analyzing. It is this black section right here. Okay? Really fancy way of saying, figure out what's wrong. Okay? If you don't know what the problem is, then you can't solve it. For example, if we're sitting in here and we start smelling smoke, obviously smelling smoke is a problem, right? Does that mean we instantly all start rushing to the door, pushing each other out of the way, and stamping out of the school? Well, that's if you wake up and it's filled with smoke. If we don't see smoke, but we smell smoke, that's an indicator. But before we do that, we should probably figure out where that smoke is coming from. So if we open our head and we don't hear a smoke alarm or nothing's going off yet, so we know that nobody's made that call yet, but if we poke our head out the window, we go or out in the hallway, we walk around a second, we realize, oh, some kids are just burning cupcakes or something over in Miss Clint's room. So we found what the problem was. Kids don't know how to bake. It happens. But if we just smell smoke, we don't know how to fix it. We don't know where it's coming from. We don't know what the problem is. So you have to go out and find out what is the problem. Then you have to decide, is it worth solving? Is it worth fixing? In that case, do we really need to do anything as this class is a technology class because they can't bake? Absolutely not. So we don't need to waste our time and energy. As 6th graders, that's a really interesting concept for you guys to understand. You have very limited time, energy, and money. Those are 3 really big things. And you have limited amounts of all of them. So you really have to start picking and choosing what's worth your time, what's worth your energy. And to be honest, half the crap you guys start, all the little drama you guys have, is really never worth your time. But whatever, that's a different thing altogether. So we have to figure out what the problem is and figure out if we need to deal with it. The next step would be developing ideas, which is coming up with solutions, ways to fix it. Okay, in that scenario, we don't have to fix that, so we can let that go. Next step, create the solutions. Okay, so we found a bunch of ideas. Now we try one. Okay, and then ultimately, did it work? My favorite example of this is, let's say my shoe's untied. It's not because I'm awesome, but all right. So right now, if you can't see, my shoe is untied. What's the problem here? Very simple. Anybody, just say it out loud. Shoes untied. So we figured out what the problem is. We figured out what the problem is. Do I need to fix that problem? Yeah, it could get bad, right? So we move on. We know we need to fix it. What are some possible solutions for this? Tie it. Okay. Tie it with what? Tie it with my fingers? That didn't work. Be specific. What kind of knot? Bunny ears. So let's say we do the bunny ears and the loop, swoop, pull, whatever you want to call that. What else? What else could I do? I could cross it and go under and pull and hope that that stays. That's another idea. So we have bunnies, loops. We have cross it over and pull. I could just tuck it in. Hey, that's a pretty good idea. That's another solution. What else could I do? Throw it across the room. That's another solution that I could do. What else could I do? Well, all right, now let's imagine I got this still, my shoe's untied. What else could I do to it to fix it? Okay, I could tuck the strings into the strings, not just in, but into the strings. I could also probably duct tape it. But right there, we just came up with about 6 solutions on how to tie my shoe, right? So we could tie the traditional bunny ear method. We could do the cross it over and pull. We could tuck it in to the bottom. We could tuck it into the laces. We could throw it across the room, or we could duct tape it. So now we have 6 solutions. We got to pick one of them. Which one seems like the best idea? Probably the bunny ears. There's a reason we all use bunny ears, because it's one of the better ones. So then I pick one, I try it. Oh, good. Look, did it work?
Yes.
Okay, but let's say I walk down the way. Oh, now it came untied again. So now what are some methods we could do? Now we could double knot it. We could duct tape it again. We could super glue. Whatever it might be. But when we say that, we just went through the entire design cycle. Came up with the problem, figured out the problem, came up with multiple solutions, picked one. Did it work? That's what this is. That's all you're doing. And you do this dozens of times a day without even knowing you do it. Okay? So we build on that. Today, your assignment and what you're going to work on, and I'm going to let you have a partner as long as we can do it quietly and effectively. The second it becomes less quiet and less effective, you'll do it on your own. In your My Work tabs is a page called the 6th grade problem identification worksheet. Okay? Now, this is just going to tell you a couple things. We're going to give you some pictures, and you and your partner are kind of going to walk through a mini design cycle. Okay? So I'll give you the example. And when you're doing this, guys, you can just type right over it. You see how we just typed right into it? Just type over it. Don't worry about opening it up. So in this particular scenario, what's the problem, first of all? What could be the problem? Lynn. So why doesn't he just open it?
Because he had water.
Okay. So keep in mind, yes, we know he's drowning. But is that necessarily the cause of the problem? No. So you can see right here, maybe it's the door opens inward. And when all that water's there, it's pushing it closed, so he can't do it. Maybe the water just won't drain and the door's stuck. Maybe he just forgot his scuba gear. Whatever, we come up with the problem. We see a problem, we know we need to do it. Get over it. And then what are some options? Well, she could break the glass. Well, if she breaks the glass, then that could get messy. It could be very dangerous. He could fall onto the glass. Bad news. They could turn off the water and call 911. But that might take too long. He might drown by the time they get there. So, whenever we start to look at the problems, we also have to anticipate additional problems that might happen if you try to fix it. Okay? And that part is where 6th graders really, really struggle with. Okay, yeah, I can find a problem. Yeah, I can come up with a solution. And that's where I finish. But we got to get to the point where we can find the problem, come up with a solution, and then maybe try to guess what kind of problems could happen from the solution we chose. If you can do that, most of the time your perfect solution is going to appear. So, for an example, here's one for you. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is one of the most famous mistakes on Earth. Okay? But it is. They made some major architectural problems. This thing is slowly falling over at a very, very gradual rate. It's a couple hundred years old, and it has just slowly kept on going. Extremely famous, but what are the problems here? Like, this isn't for me. You guys are going to work on this, but you need to identify what's happening here. If obviously we don't know for sure, but guess. There's a couple reasons it could happen. Don't tell me you guys are going to work on this as a partner. So when you figure out what might be wrong with it, like there's termites and it's whatever, one of my solutions might be, oh, I should probably spray for termites. Okay? So I really want you guys to focus on what are 2 possible problems for these pictures, and then come up with 2 solutions for your problems. It's going to make you think. It's going to make you work a little bit, but don't worry. That's not a bad thing. Okay? So you've got multiple pictures. If you get stuck, move on. This is my favorite one. The cow. Obviously, that's a problem if you're the cow. It just happens. Now, if you get stumped, so let's say you and your partner can only think of one problem, go on to the next one. You can always come back to it later. Okay? Are there any questions about this? All right. You guys may go ahead and find a partner, and you may get to work on your problem identification stuff.